a lot of people around the world, especially Gen Z, seem to be aware of the fact that the systems that were set up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s are completely void of any of the morality or functionality that was part of setting it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's to say, the world order has no order. Law has no law, right? It's not blind. Law is completely corrupt. Violence is completely sporadic and goes in all directions. It is no longer the illusion of a system that functions for some moral reason is completely collapsed, right? And what you see, especially in my generation, I think, Ruben, in your generation, probably, if I had to guess, like when you were in high school or in university, I would imagine that there was some people coming and saying these things that, it's basically one big scam. Nothing is done on a moral basis. It's all done to enrich certain people, for people to enrich themselves. Before I move on, is that true?
Yeah, I think you are right about this. If I look at myself as well, because I've been maybe like standing with half a foot believing this stuff until too long. But then even I was part of like a small group of people in our high school that are saying like, this 9/11 and this Iraq war and it's all a bit bullshit, la la.
Yeah.
But like, I guess 90% of people, they were like, no, this is completely according to, this makes sense.
Yeah. So I think you had already, like, in the millennial generation, would we call it?
Well, at least you're not calling me Gen X, so
that's true. So in the millennial generation, I think we already saw some people getting completely disillusioned, right? But then by the time you hit my generation, Gen Z, I'm just on the border. By the time you hit that generation, the people I talk with, like the people I went to school with, almost nobody believes in the system anymore. By the time I got to university, it was like a joke if you thought that our institutions had any form of value, Like democracy, more or less dead. Capitalism, more or less dead. World law, more like the legal system, more or less dead.
The only problem is that it instills in a lot of people apathy. Nihilism can move people towards good, maybe too sometimes, but when it becomes apathy as well, then it's not being used for the good.
No, for sure. I mean, in my generation, it's really like we are so individualized at this point. We are so devoid of any form of genuine community and human connection.
Yeah.
That everything is viewed through the lens of how can this benefit me? And that apathy that you're talking about is huge. It's like, sorry, but if I was to have empathy in the world that you put me into, I would be crying every day for the dead children on my screen.
Yeah.
So in order to survive in this world as a young person, I must develop apathy. I must be completely fine with starvation of children, mass starvation of children. I must be completely fine with IDF soldiers doing target practice on 5-year-olds. Like this is a requirement for survival in the world, and it's not an easy world to survive in, because as capitalism collapses, more and more wealth is extracted from the working class and into the elites, so that it also becomes extremely difficult just to maintain a basic standard of living. So any moment of empathy, any moment of weakness, so to speak, in the eyes of the system, any moment of hesitation could result in the termination of your way of life. It could result in homelessness. It could result in poor living conditions for the rest of your life. It could result in you not being able to provide for people that are important to you. And in worst cases, it could result in death, right? Like, this is the cost of living is called that because without paying that cost, you cannot live. And this instills this terrible nihilistic feeling that a lot of young people have. And I see that the pressure mounted by all of these conditions that we've discussed today pushes the youth into two directions. one, and it's both radicalizing, by the way. So, but you can either get radicalized to the right wing, where the ultimate endpoint is like complete nihilism, nothing matters. We might as well restart the Hitler Youth Project. We might as well shoot politicians we don't agree with. We might as well shoot, do school shootings in order to get fame. We might as well shoot religious people we don't agree with. And there is no real consequence because there is no real morality to begin with. Like, and the less extreme version of that, but it is all part of the same pipeline. The less extreme version of that is the alt-right, where they say, no, there is still hope, but the only hope is in going back to how things were before, getting rid of all the migrants, getting rid of all forms of things that they see is destroying social cohesion. So any form of diversity in thought, religion, sexuality, race, gender, getting rid of all of that so that we can go back to a cohesive society, and then somehow that's going to magically solve all our economic issues.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side where I see a lot of young people getting radicalized in my direction, in our direction, where simply being a social democrat is not enough. Being a neoliberal is not enough because fundamentally, systemically, there is an issue, right? Yeah. And these are the people that really pick up issues like Palestine, because they embody so much of what is wrong. And they say, no, we don't just need one positive election with a new social democrat in power. We need a complete revamp of the whole system.
And this is where nihilism can help you.
Right, exactly.
I've dealt with the feeling of nihilism for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Like almost daily on a constant. And it became a theme for me as well to discover because, well, obviously I'm interested in psychiatry as well in my work. And nihilism is, well, it's a thing that also occurs when people have suicidal ideation. But also when people want to commit something that we would designate as terrorism or a school shooting, nihilism plays an important part.
High risk scenarios, let's say.
Yeah, because nihilism is just the feeling that nothing matters, right? But the point I want to make is that you can also use it for good. So that's what I've tried to do over the past 2 years with my feeling of nihilism is if nothing matters, right? If nothing has value, then I can do whatever I want to do and I don't have to fear.
Really interesting because this goes into a passion of mine, a bit separate from politics, but I'll tie it in. Buddhism and the middle way and a lot of these Zen ideologies go into something similar. Nothing matters, and therefore your pain is self-inflicted, and you should choose, if you want to live a life of eternal peace and enlightenment, right? So enlightenment comes through the realization that nothing matters.
Yeah.
However, in the West, I see a lot of our leaders have a form of nihilistic Buddhism, where they say, again, they go through.
You can use it the wrong way around as well, for sure.
That's what you go through the passage of nothing matters, and therefore I can put any amount of pain onto anyone else for my own enrichment because nothing matters. There is no God is dead. Nothing.
There is no greater good. So
exactly. So I might as well be evil. Yeah. So a lot of the Buddhists argue there is no greater good, so you might as well choose to be good.
Yeah.
For your own sake, for your own selfish sake. But yeah, interesting that. Indeed, nihilism, I think, is a big part of this. And I think it's also baby steps towards some type of spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
In a way.
And it can be prefaced with anxiety. And we see a lot of people dealing with anxiety. And I've dealt with anxiety as well. Yeah. And a bit of nihilism also helped with that.
Yeah.
We should be careful with this because really being convicted that nothing matters or more... being convinced that you yourself don't matter or have no value can be dangerous, right? That can lead to things like suicide.
Yeah.
But having a more general feeling of actually, it doesn't matter if I succeed, if I fail, if I look a fool. This is something that can help relieve anxiety.
For sure.
And in that sense, nihilism can be positive. And I think this is maybe also where we are now studying the therapeutic effects of ketamine. And ketamine is something that makes you dissociate like crazy, and can also get people to this point where you can view yourself from the outside and feel detached and realize that, actually the things I worry about, they don't matter that much.
No, it's quite important, right? The beauty for me in the Buddhism of like nothing matters is that if nothing inherently has meaning, if everything that other people said has meaning doesn't actually mean anything, then I myself have full power to give meaning to whatever I want.
Yes.
And that's without limitation, right? So meaning only comes from within, which means that if someone's opinions matters to me, then it has meaning. If it doesn't have any meaning, right?
And then it can be very empowering and very positive force, nihilism. It doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah. So a lot of young people around the world seem to be engaged in this nihilism, and also in both senses, the positive and the negative. We've seen a lot of more political violence going on in terms of the negative. I mean, some of these circles online that went from Reddit to 4chan to 8chan to now they call it the Angels of Death, and then there's one more like cult-like following, which is even more extreme. I mean, this is like post neo-Nazi circles, like places that are too extreme for the neo-Nazis, basically. And these are a lot of the ones doing the school shootings. The most likely the one that shot Charlie Kirk as well. We're not sure, but a lot of these groups. And at the same time, on the other side, you also have a lot more protest movements coming up that are more and more extreme. We saw in Nepal that they completely overthrew their government in a matter of 3 days, which was crazy. I haven't seen something like that happen in a long time. We saw Indonesia was burning as well in riots, and we saw a few other areas in that region starting to get inspired by these protests as well. I think the Philippines was another place. In like sort of in the Palestine section of it, we also saw Milan in Italy, the protests getting quite a bit more militant than they were before.
Quite a bit more at the level we need it to be.
Yeah, exactly. We saw Berlin as well escalating a little bit, not too much, but still, it's to say that like we see more and more young people coming out and actually being more interested in rioting than protesting. And on the right wing, on the far right, we saw in the UK these massive riots around ending immigration. Tommy Robinson is his name, I think, the guy who organized
the leading figure.
Yeah. So they also have like, and that spread to The Hague. It spread to Amsterdam as well. Like, and the craziest part to me is like seeing people in the UK, seeing people in The Hague walking around with images of Charlie Kirk, and one of these slogans that is being chanted from across the US and also now across Europe is "White men fight back," and that's
they are fighting their own demons though, and we are suffering from it. But
because I'm sorry, but someone has to tell you the truth. You are being attacked. That is true. White working class men in Europe, in the US, are under attack, but not from migration, from austerity, from right-wing policies, from hyper-capitalism, right? Everything you care about, including the state itself, has become a commodity that you can buy, including you yourself become a commodity that is on the market. And this alienation effect that Karl Marx spoke of is, and I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, Karl Marx, but his diagnosis is correct, that the alienation is what you're feeling. You are feeling dehumanized, you're feeling attacked, and you're being put under this economic pressure that we discussed. And now, if your reaction is going to be nihilism, okay. But if your reaction after that is going to be to pursue the same policies that led us here, then you're being completely illogical and you're acting based off of shapes and colors, I would say.
So basically, white men are just now starting to feel what less fortunate people have already been experiencing for
Yeah.
quite a longer time.
Yeah.
And now that it's their turn to experience it, and the less fortunate people have been telling them for a long time, like,
It's
this
coming.
system is oppressive
Yeah.
and it's not working.
It will eat us all.
Yes. And now that they feel it, they turn around and they blame the people who have been warning them.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been here since
Like-
day one, warning you that
Well,
this
I'm
is.
I'm a white man, so
Yeah, okay.
Well,
I've been warning you, Ruben. No,
Yeah.
no, but seriously, the lower classes have felt the pressure of capitalism for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it is actually going up and up the ladder
it's
because
their turn now.
you have this small group of like what 1 to 10% that now in the US represent 40% of commodity or 60% of commodity consumption comes from just 10% of the population, by the way. So you have this tiny group amassing more and more wealth. So they extracted it from the lower class, who then became homeless and irrelevant. They extracted it from the lower middle class. They extracted it from the middle class. And now they are turning towards the upper middle class and lower upper class as well.
Yeah.
So you're seeing people that have otherwise been very comfortable in the range of 100,000 to 500,000 earnings a year. You're seeing this group of people now for the first time cutting back spending and feeling like they are under economic pressure. So eventually the system will eat itself and the top of the top will demand everything.
Well, let the system eat itself, and then after that we can eat.
Yeah. And just quickly, like to end this segment, I want to say, if you're confused, if you're a white man who feels like you're under pressure, yes, I understand. Like Ruben. But the numbers are clear, and I wrote them down because I find it ridiculous, right? In 2023, Spain, which was under intense pressure because of neoliberalism, they went full left, well, almost full left. They went to a socialist candidate who is now the prime minister for a few years. And the result was, in 2023, their economy grew by 2.7%. In the same time, the Netherlands had 0.1% growth, so basically zero.
Wow.
Stagnation, which, if you include inflation, probably means that we went down.
Yeah.
And the EU grew by 0.4%. So again, barely any growth. In 2024, Spain grew even more after 1 year of the socialist president, and they grew by 3.2%, their economy. And then the Netherlands, 1%, EU, 1%. So what you're seeing is, if voting for the right wing would be beneficial for the economy, then the Netherlands and the EU that have collectively moved more and more right, they would be the ones having more economic growth. But instead, it's the socialist country of Spain. So I think the verdict is clear. And one of the main things the Prime Minister of Spain argues for is that we have a choice to make. Do we want to stop migration or do we want economic growth? We cannot have both.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the honest story, honestly, and that's what's so nefarious and so stupid about this whole narrative. Like, it is exactly the economic interest that drew migrants and labor migrants, but also other kinds of migrants here. That we have an opportunity for people to work, and that actually we want to keep the economy growing, so we need them.
Yeah, and we're lacking a workforce because people don't have as many kids as they used to.
Yeah.
So we actually need workers.
Or we have to accept that we are not going to have economic growth every year.
Yeah.
Which, according to me, I can like easily accept that. That's not a biggie.
Depends. We could easily accept that if we had a different system that didn't rely on it.
True. Yeah.
Right now, we rely on economic growth to make everything go round.
Yeah.
So I guess the prime minister is a bit short-sighted in the sense that you do have a third option, which is rebuild the system so that you do not need economic growth.
Yeah.
But that's kind of thinking completely outside the box. If you want to continue things more or less as they are now, you must choose between immigration or economic growth. If you want to rebuild the system, then go ahead.
You have to tackle that, I guess, because one of the driving forces why we need economic growth is because economic growth diminishes the debt.
Last point. Even if you do rebuild the system, we are never going to get rid of migration because we invented airplanes and highways and cars. So people will use them to get around. So
And migration has been it existed for as long as humans have existed. Even
ships.
animals do migration.
Yeah.
When the food runs
Yeah.
out, you go to a different place.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
It is completely. It is taking your feelings around the color of someone's skin and making it more important than the fact that people, animals, everything moves.
Yeah.
So you can either get with it, try to find a way to make it make sense. For example, offering those people that are in need proper social services so that they may develop their homes and society in a positive way. Or you can be hurt about it and spend the same amount of resources trying to stop them.
And maybe like killing a lot less people in the periphery of your empire also helps.
Exactly. Maybe stopping the genocide in Gaza would stop some of the migration.
Yeah. Or like...
Huh? How about that?
Or neutralizing the Syrian army or bombing Yemen or...
destabilizing all of the states that came into power after the Arab Spring.
We support a reduction of refugees. Like, don't cause refugees.
Sorry. Like, it's not like the left is like, yay, refugees is amazing. We should make everyone into a refugee. No. Like, it's good to have a place you can call home without having to flee.
Let's make less refugees. Yeah. I support that completely.
Exactly. The only thing is that once you bomb them and they need to flee, then we will welcome them, of course, because we are humane.
Exactly.
Yeah.